Gentlemen, welcome back to the Festus Fantasy Football Forum on the Fantasy Jacks podcast. Happy election day and happy birthday to me, I guess. This is a fun day when I'm recording this initially. Just finished week 9, guys. We have a very important episode this week because it is starting to get crunch time going into week 10. And we're going to obviously preview those games, a lot of important matchups. And like I said, guys, it's getting to playoff time. So there's a lot of 5-4, 4-5 teams right now. So it is crucial. Every week now is crucial. And we're going to be getting into all those storylines and narratives today. On top of obviously updating the power rankings, going through the picks, and we're going to have a pretty good primetime game this week. So stay tuned for that. Let's just get started with this episode as we always do, and let's get into the Week 9 recap. And it was a pretty good Week 9 for some teams, and for others it possibly concerned a lot. Let's start with one game here. I want to start with Thank You to Mar taking on Jack Seapad. He took him down 124.64 to 94.64. It was honestly a great win for Dom. Coming into this game, Chris was really low-balling this effort, this team here. Truth be told, Dom went out and made a move for Chase Brown when he had George Pickens on a bye. It didn't win him the week, statistically speaking, but it for sure helped in many cases. Chase Brown ended up dropping 26 points, along with Derrick Henry and Joe Burrow, also above 25. Chris has a point. The last few weeks they've just been atrocious for him. All of his opponents are going off, and whenever you have Dom go off, it's going to be hard to stay positive with that. Now, this week, he does have CMC potentially coming back. I'd project he would, and he needs it. Nick Chubb, 4.5 points out of the running back 2. Mark Andrews out of the tight end, recently traded to him. Terrible. But Cedric Tillman does look to be like a pretty good player for this team moving forward. Good win for Dom, though. Gets him out of last place contention. Looks like things could be moving up for him. Let's move on now to Breeze's Backpack taking down Bear Down 123.58 to 89.88. And Bear Down I think this was the worst week of the season for him. Chris Olave, immediate hospital ball by Derek Carr again. And this one was literally a hospital ball. Like, he went to the hospital. He was out cold. I saw it and it was awful. It's disgusting. And I feel really, really bad for Brock. He's had so many concussions this year, and in his recent playing history, they should honestly shut him down. This is like Tua. As a receiver, taking this many bad concussions, you just need to stop. So, Brock is potentially losing Chris Olave at least 3 weeks, maybe the whole season. That's a huge blow. Thankfully for him, he has allowed McConkey to fill in for that. For Breeze's Backpack, I should say, Breece Hall still not going, but when you have Zay Flowers and Garrett Wilson dropping 30 points a week, it doesn't really matter, right? Very good stuff there. Kareem Hunt, although has been fantastic in fantasy, his production is going to dip very, very soon. Kind of like a Chuba Hubbard deal because Isaiah Pacheco's coming back. But overall, Breeze's Backpack, 6-3 now. Next, I want to go to Team Diddy, taking down We Are Shit, 122.88 to 65.32. We Are Shit in contention for the lowest points ever scored in a game, just barely beating it out. Barely. But it was a tough game for We Are Shit. Trading for Hunter Henry was one of his best moves because he was the second highest scoring player on this team. T. Higgins, Brian Robinson, and Debo were all out this week, so I'm going to give him a little bit of a pass there. Look out for Team Didi. I hate that he's in my division. I'm going to say that right now. I hate that he's in my division because although he might be losing Chuba Hubbard workload a little bit, look at this team with Nico back and Isaiah Pacheco back. D-Hop can be played. Juwan Jennings can be played. Javonte Williams can be played. There's so many options now, so I think Team Didi, honestly, maybe in the works of a trade because he has a lot of pieces that he can make a move with. You don't need Bucky Irving in that flex. You have a lot of great options, so just something to keep in mind. But Team Didi, great win. We Are Shit. Just trying not to get last at this point. I don't see the playoffs in his future anymore, so maybe, I don't know. Not mathematically eliminated, though. Let's go to The Guardians of your mom's house falling to Mez's team Can't Chub Check 135.7 to 120.36. Coming out on Thursday night, he was electric with Joe Mixon and Devontae Adams. Kind of had the writing on the wall, but then come Sunday, there was like a 20-30 point lead at some point for the Guardians. And then on Monday Night Football, K-Dotton put the nail in the coffin on that one. The Guardians needed a miracle. They fall to 5-4, and then Mez improves to 8-1. I'd imagine this automatically locks him up for a playoff. I think a win this week will do that, but this is by far the best season we've seen since Tyler. So he is riding high right now. And as for the Guardians, you do get a You Fucked Up award this week. I was hoping Kate Otten would negate this. The Guardians traded away Chase Brown and Jaylen Warren for George Pickens last week, meaning Travis Etienne had to play in the last flex spot. He ended up getting 5 points. Chase Brown scored 26. So that 21 points would have won the Guardians the week this week. So for that, he gets a You Fucked Up award. All 4 of my losses are You Fucked Up awards. So that sucks. But the problem is that this team only scored 2 touchdowns this week. For example, Tony's team scored 2 touchdowns and he scored 65 points. My team scores 2 touchdowns and I get 120. So that really sucks because that's really just unlucky. And Mez took advantage of that. Look, 120 points was not going to beat Mez. Truthfully, it wasn't going to beat any other team this week. Mez continuing his reign of dominance, 8-1, no injuries, team is fully healthy. That's the best ability. We talked about it. It's availability. So good job, Mez. Let's now go to the Dogs taking down the 08 Lions, 138.58 to 129.2. This game came down to Monday Night Football as well. Tyler had Travis Kelce needing, I think, 12 points or 13 points to beat Colin, and he did that in a huge way with 22 points. Could have been 24 with a fumble, though. The 08 Lions, just an amazing week from Saquon Barkley. And you can't capitalize. Last week I said that the problem with the 08 Lions is that Saquon Barkley wasn't doing Saquon Barkley things for this team and it was resulting in losses. Finally, Saquon shows up in a huge way. I think RB1 on the week. And you still lose. I think it was a great play on Sam Darnold. But Sam Laporta, man, he is awful, to put it bluntly. Adunze and Swift were good plays. Adunze was a great play, really. Josh Downs was alright. Jaden Reed, alright. He's better than what he's been. And it's just shocking to me that this team lost with Saquon Barkley doing what he did. A testament to Ty. I made a point about Team DD. The Dogs are right up there as well in terms of teams on fire right now that are A, healthy or getting healthy, and B, just a lot of depth, a lot of areas to beat you. Now Travis Kelce, I think, is fully back. So now you have to worry about Travis Kelce, Justin Jefferson, Bijan Robinson, and Josh Allen every week. Guys, this is, on paper, probably the best team right now besides Mez, in my opinion. I don't think that's too crazy to say. Complete team, great win for the Dogs. They go to 5-4. The East Division is a freaking bloodbath right now. Yeah, crazy. Let's get to the final game. Killer Off-Season taking down Off to Grandma. Killer Off-Season beats Off to Grandma. 135.84 to 93.54. Whew, wow. 5 straight losses for AJ Forrester. He is the New Orleans Saints of Festus Fantasy this year. I honestly feel bad because no one's injured. No one's hurt. AJ Brown did get hurt, but even if he didn't, he wasn't going to beat Killer Off-Season this week. 135 points. Fantastic. And that's the second huge week in a row for Judd. A complete turnaround. The future is bright for him. Maybe he can keep going. Maybe he can keep up this momentum with Achane and Cooper Kupp and J.K. Dobbins. But man, Jalen Waddle, Kyle Pitts, Keon Coleman absolutely shit the bed. My question is, and maybe other people are thinking this as well, how has AJ fallen 5 straight games? Well, I'll tell you. It's because C.J. Stroud is not a good fantasy quarterback. A.J. Brown has not been good since returning. It's weird because all the 4 wins that A.J.'s had, A.J. Brown was injured. Or got injured just like that week 1. The 5 games that he's had A.J. Brown, he's lost. For 4 games. It's really weird about that. This is the problem that you face whenever you stream tight ends. You have good matchups, you have high projections, but they're not viable. I want to point this out, JSN was sat on the bench, but even if he had played him over DJ Moore, he still wouldn't have won. So he avoids a "you fucked up" award for that. I'll talk more about these teams in the power rankings, but that is the Week 9 breakdown, the Week 9 review. Let's get into the Week 10 matchup previews. And let's get into the matchup previews for Week 10. Guys, I don't want to undermine the significance, the severity. I don't even know another vocabulary word to describe it, but it's very important this week for every single team. And we're going to really break down all those storylines the best that I can in this segment. I want to start off with the first, I would say, big matchup for teams, and it's Thank You to Mar taking on Off to Grandma. Thank You to Mar is looking really good after the Joe Burrow and Chase Brown trades. Evan Ingram is emerging, Khalil Shakir is emerging, and Derrick Henry is obviously Derrick Henry. No Tyler Lockett this week, but this is a pretty big week for Thank You to Mar because sitting at 3-6, okay, a loss this week would almost, I would say, guarantee he would miss the playoffs, falling to 3-7. It'd be almost impossible for him to win 4 straight games to close out the season to even have a chance at the playoffs, especially with his low points for. When you go to AJ, Off to Grandma, okay, CJ Stroud, been a problem this year, but Kyron Williams on fire. Ramondre Stevenson, although is up and down, he has a great matchup this week. And Malik Neighbors, again, another plus matchup. Darnell Mooney, a huge plus matchup. So it's important for AJ this week because in the division that he's in, everyone else is 5-4. If he goes to 4-6 with the inevitable 1 or 2 other teams winning this week, dropping 2 games back with only 4 to play would be catastrophic. I think 3 to play actually would be. So this is a must-win game for AJ. Does he have the firepower to do it, even without the potential of AJ Brown? Well, JSN's on bye, Jerry Jeudy's on bye. You'd have to essentially plug in Moore or Mooney into that wide receiver and then find someone in the flex. I don't know if you have great flex options, just to be honest. Is that still enough? I think so. I think he's going to take down Thank You to Mar this week, and he's going to improve to 5-5. Let's now go to the 08 Lions taking on Jacksepad. Gentlemen, I'm really excited about this matchup because this is the first week we're going to see CMC play, hopefully. Along with Tyreek Hill, this is the plan all along for Chris. It's to build this team for the future. He sacrificed his early season. Was it too much? 2-7 right now. He has to win out in order to have a chance at the playoffs. Luckily for him, CMC is not a scrub. He's going to be hopefully getting 20 points a game, and I think that can help him in some cases. But he has to get the ball rolling now, okay? Plus matchups with Tua and Tyreek Hill, plus matchups with Mark Andrews. Hopefully he can get going. But when you look at the 08 Lions, okay, Jahmyr Gibbs, Saquon Barkley, they have to really take over the load, so to speak, because the wide receivers are letting this team down. No DK Metcalf this week, no Jaden Reed this week, no Mike Evans. So you're going to basically be establishing the band of misfit toys at wide receiver this week if you're the 08 Lions. Do you have the running back power to compensate for that? Well, Swift, Barkley, and Gibbs are all, I believe, top 12. Maybe top 15. Let me check Swift right now. He's 17. So you have 3 top 17 running backs in the league. That's fantastic. But now in your starting lineup, down to Dunze and McMillan, you don't have a top 25 receiver in the league right now. Josh Johns is 25 exactly. I'm really good at this. I was off the cusp. Is it enough? Guys, I really, the projections say otherwise, but I'm really torn on this. I truthfully do think Jacksepad could pull this out. But I'm going to go with Colin. Now, if there was a sports betting line, the line would be, I think it's, 26 would be the line. I think Jacksepad can lose by less than 26 points. So he's going to cover the spread, I think. But I have Colin winning this game. Especially, another point to make on this, it's really important that he wins this game because with Brock's team essentially in turmoil with the injuries, the 08 Lions, it's his division for the taking, but he's a game back. So he needs to turn it on right now. He cannot lose any more matchups that basically slip through the crack. Let's move on to another great. Let's just go down to this one. Speaking of Brock, Bear Down taking on Team Didi this week. Early projections favoring Bear Down, which I think is surprising, but I think that's because Drake London is still slotted to play. We don't know for sure about that. So my guess is that Ricky Pearsall gets a start in either the flex or wide receiver position. That'll lower his projections. So I think it's actually a 50-50 shot for both teams. When I go to the narratives of this game, Team Didi in a 5-4 record, very good, but he's in a really competitive division. Okay, 3 other teams, or at least have 4 wins. 2 other teams in this division are 5-4 as well. So I don't want to say from here on out, but every win is now so much more important than the last for everyone in this East division. So this is, if you want to put it bluntly, a must-win game for Austin. Because if the Dogs or if the Guardians win, they get a game advantage over Team Didi with only 3 weeks to play. And that's going to be very hard to come back from. Now, it does look like Austin's going to get Nico Collins back this week. That's absolutely insurmountable. That's huge. On the flip side of this, Brock has Tank Dell. Maybe that cancels out. Who knows? But for Brock, I just made the case for Colin. This is a must-win game for Brock because now you're at 5-4, you're in the driver's seat, but now your team is going down. Your team is trending way down right now. Your wide receivers are hurt to hell. You have no running back too. There is a lot of areas where Colin can attack, and if you lose any more games and Colin starts winning, I don't know if your points for is going to be enough to make the playoffs unless you win the division. When we go to the points for right now, okay, Brock, you are sitting about mid to low end of the pack. The 08 Lions sitting way above you. But then when you look at it, Brock, Team Didi has more points. The Dogs have more points. Off to Grandma has more points. So they're all 5-4 as well, except AJ. But if you don't win your division, there's a very strong possibility that you miss the playoffs completely because your points for isn't there. And it's not like you're going to be getting a CMC back or someone crazy to help you with those points for. So this is a huge game for you, Brock. Who do I have winning this game? Well, whenever you break it down, I really like Brock's matchups. And for Boston, Chuba Hubbard against the Giants, I don't like. Cortland Sutton against Kansas City, I don't like. DeAndre Hopkins against Denver, I don't like. I'm going to take Brock to win this game. It's insurmountable that he wins this game. There's so much pressure on him. And for Team Didi, all you can do is just keep fighting. Your team's getting healthier, but really great storylines this week. Let's go to another huge game towards the storylines. Killer offseason taking on the Guardians of your mom's house. Huge projection disparity, 142.7 to 107.9. I gotta be honest, guys, I am sick and tired of seeing my team with this high of projections because it's just not working. 140-point projection last week, only scored 120 points. 130-point projection a couple weeks ago, I think I scored 80. I'm tired of these high projections because it's just setting me up for failure, and it sucks. This week, however, I think there can be some pretty good attackable matchups, potentially, though, without CeeDee Lamb. So that will be a problem if that's the case. When I look at Killer offseason, this is huge for him. At 4-5, you're not completely out of it whatsoever. We have seen teams go on insane losing streaks this season. It's possible for Jay Gill or I wouldn't say Mess. I think Mess has that locked up. So at this point, it's Jay Gill or anyone in the wild card spot to fall. And Killer offseason can take some advantages of that. When you look at his matchups this week, though, I don't really love them. Patrick Mahomes against Denver, J.K. Dobbins against Tennessee. Cooper Kupp against Miami, isn't totally a home run play for him. Keenan Allen against New England. So there's not really great matchups. I think your projection total reflects that. The Guardians, though, same deal. Jane Dion's against Pittsburgh's not a great matchup. Dalton Kincaid against... I was trying to look for bad matchups. Dalton Kincaid against Indianapolis is an okay one, but Tony Pollard against the Chargers is the worst matchup that you can literally have as a running back. And then, of course, CeeDee Lamb potentially not playing this week. That's a huge blow for the Guardians. Who am I going to take this week? Well, it's a massive game for Jackson because like Tyler, like Austin, this whole division, it's being determined by one game right now. So the Guardians need to win out as well. I mean, there's no one giving this team a playoff spot. You have to go win games. and you lost to Tony. It was terrible. You let that one slip through. Your 4U fucked up awards are all 4 of your losses. You're not managing well. I'm not. I'm definitely not trading anymore for the rest of the season because I can't fucking do that right. But I'm going to take Jackson and the Guardians in this one. I think the firepower is there, and I don't think Keller offseason can continue this high scoring streak that he's been on. So I'm just expecting some regression. I'm expecting the Guardians to bounce back and win. I mean, look, they scored 120 points and 2 touchdowns last week. The likelihood of that happening again is very slim. Let's go to the final game of the Sunday slate. And that's the Dogs taking on We Are Shit. Again, another huge point disparity here, 132 to 110. So the Dogs, I mean, look at this team right now. It's fantastically built. And the projections show this. I think he is the second highest point projected team of the week over Mez, which is insane to say because this team was 2-4 not a few weeks ago. A complete turnaround, and I think it really goes back to the James Cook for Justin Jefferson trade. I really think that. When you look at this week against We Are Shit, again, he's fallen off. I think it's almost impossible to make the playoffs now unless you win out, and it does not help that you have to play the Dogs this week. They're on a run that is unparalleled in the league besides Mez. Who do I have winning this game? I'm not really going to sugarcoat it. I have Ty winning this game, and it's a huge one because as I've mentioned, Ty is needing to make up some ground in terms of wins and points for in order to take back the division. He's made up the ground in the win column, but he still needs to make up the ground in the points for column. He has to chase the Guardians on that. Is it possible that he escapes this week with a lower win total? Yes, but you don't really want that. You need your team to go out and score 150 points again. And this is a huge game for him. If he lets this one slip away, I think it would have to be because his points for was so low. So this game is insurmountable for the Dogs, not only for the momentum, not only for the win column, but also for the points for. And so with that, I have Ty. Let's get to the final game of Week 10. It is the primetime game. I was going to do more of a narrative-based matchup, but I want to go with the 2 best teams in the league, a division game. The Can't Chubb Check team by Mez taking on Breeze's backpack with Jay Gill. Let's get into the historical breakdown of these 2 managers facing off. The first matchup can be traced all the way back to 2021. At the time, it was Washington Foreskin taking on Black Hammer. And this was a big blowout, 142.82 to 76.5. So this was the first time they had historically met, and Mez won convincingly, going up 1-0 all time. These 2 managers don't see each other for the rest of 2021, shockingly, at the 10-man league at that time. So the schedule really, these teams don't play each other much. We have to go to 2022 to see these managers face off again. And this one was much closer. Washington Foreskin, still named at the time, beat Lamar's backpack 127.66 to 117.38. Now, this was week 10 of 2022. This was Mez's first really good year, I think, going 9-5. But then that also was the last time they played each other. So at this time, Mez is 2-0 all time. However, you go to last year again. They only play once a year, which I think is interesting. But this was the first game that Jay Gill ends up winning over Mez. At the time he changed it to Marmonte's victim, but it was Lamar's backpack, if you guys remember. But he beat Chubb Checker at the time, 108.62 to 97.4. And again, this was the first time Jay Gill had beaten Mez. And now we head into this season, 2024, week 10. And it's all time, it's 2-1 between Jay Gill and Mez. I'm excited for this primetime matchup. I think it's going to be, again, it's 2 of the best teams in the league facing off against each other. That in itself is due for some eyeballs. The storylines here, not as much as a significance as the other games, but I think it's just going to be fireworks for everyone to tune in on. I'm really excited about this. Lamar Jackson against Cincinnati on Thursday night's going to kick everything off, but he has Zay Flowers on the other side, so this could go really good or really bad for Mez to start off on Thursday. Great matchups obviously on both sides here. Amon-Ra against Houston, David Montgomery against Houston, Breece Hall against Arizona, Aaron Jones against Jacksonville. Mez is without Kenneth Walker this week, and that's going to be potentially a pretty big problem for him because Kenneth Walker has been one of Mez's best players. He's having to fill in Quentin Johnston in the flex, it appears, and he's been, he's been on fire, granted, but against Tennessee, could be a hit or miss. For Jay Gill, everyone's coming in healthy. Everyone's coming in ready to go. Looks like Kirk Cousins is going to get the start because Anthony Richardson sucks at football. Does Mez pivot to Jake Ferguson in the flex? I don't know. It would be cool to see a little 12 personnel, or I guess 32 personnel, 3 running backs, 2 tight ends. With Kenneth Walker out of the game this week, I'm going to have to give my win to Jay Gill. I like his matchups. I like how his team is performing these past few weeks. I get it, his wide receivers are not going to score 30 points every week, but who's to say his running backs can't step up? He gets George Kittle back, why can't his tight end score 20? But I think Jay Gill, Brees' backpack, I think it's going to pull through this week. It's funny, too, that Lamar Jackson has been a staple of Jay Gill's teams for the past however many years. In the one year that he doesn't pick him, Lamar Jackson is QB1, absolutely on fire, and Mez, maybe it's not a coincidence at all, but Mez is 8-1 because of it. So, Jay Gill, just maybe for your own pride's sake, you need to win this week just to show that you didn't need Lamar Jackson. Let me go through them again real quick. I have Jackson winning, Colin winning, AJ winning, Brock winning, Ty winning, and for primetime, I have Jay Gill winning. Let's get into my boom or bust picks real quick, and then we're going to go to the power rankings portion of the episode. I think you guys are going to really like it this week. I'm going to go really in depth on the analysis of the teams and kind of what each team needs in order to make the playoffs and keep their season alive. All right, guys, we're going to start off with my boom picks. I'm going to be honest. I'm struggling a little bit with my all-time record, 1-5 on the booms this year. So we're going to go, I'm almost too confident that these are going to nail. But if you guys want to start feeding me, go ahead. I wouldn't blame you for it. But my first boom this week is Brees' backpack's very own Aaron Jones to go over 19.1 points this week against Jacksonville. He's had a couple mid games. Jacksonville's defense, it's atrocious, especially when stopping the run. I think this is almost a lock. Like, the closest thing you can get to a lock. Because the other closest thing you can get to a lock is Darnell Mooney of Off to Grandma going over 20.2 points this week. No Marshawn Lattimore anymore out of New Orleans. Drake London potentially not playing. And on top of that, Darnell Mooney has just been a stud. So I think this is going to be a huge Darnell Mooney game. Huge Aaron Jones game. Alright guys, so for my busts, again, 1-5 all time. You can fade these two if you'd like. I think it's harder to pick busts than it is booms. But whatever. We're going to start here with Diontae Johnson on Jaxie Pad's squad. I have him going under 6.6 points this week. He's going to bust against Cincinnati. I still don't think he's acclimated in the Ravens offense yet. He's not really going to get on the field too much or be much of an impact. I think they're just going to run the ball down Cincinnati's throat. My other bust this week is my beloved Tony Pollard. He's going to go under 8.3 points this week against the Chargers. I hate to say it, but the Chargers are just really fucking good, especially on defense this year, so I'd imagine they can shut down Tony Pollard to at least under 8.3 points, especially putting them in a passing situation. I don't think he'll boom by any means, but maybe he gets into the middle range, but I have him going under 8.3. So those are my boom and bust. Those are my picks for the week. And let's get into the power rankings of this episode, and we'll finish it off there. So, alright guys, let's get into the power rankings. We're going to finish off this episode. And this time, I would really like to kind of break down the teams a little bit more. Maybe add in a little pizzazz, if you will. I really just want to say a couple things about what the team needs to do to make the playoffs, or maybe something that's gone right, gone wrong. More about the outlook of a team. I think it would just be more fun, just to keep the power rankings a little less stale. So let's start off this week with the number 12, and we are shit back at number 12. Unfortunately, the Cinderella run, I believe, is over. You know, a couple wins in a row against some pretty good teams. I think it's done. Sitting at 3-6 now, the only way I would imagine you can make the playoffs is everyone just leaves the league, I would say. You're sitting at a 5% chance to make the playoffs according to ESPN's projections. I'm sorry. Okay, moving on here to number 11, I have Chris's team, And if you think it's bad, hold on, I don't want to laugh. I don't want to be mean, but if you think it's bad to have a 5% chance to make the playoffs, Chris has a 1% chance to make the playoffs. Sitting at 2-7, sitting at 2-7. Obviously, that's the worst record in the league. I don't think he's going to break Jay Gill's or tie Jay Gill's lowest wins ever in a season. Potentially his lowest points ever scored. But look, CMC's coming back. I think that can amount to 2 to 3 wins for sure. But I don't think at this point you can expect to be in the playoffs. Unless you win 5 straight. Again, it's possible. Very unlikely it's possible. 1% chance though. So I'd say if there's anything that Chris can do, it's just hope and pray. At number 10, I have Thank You to Mar. Also at 3-6, he's got a 5% chance to make the playoffs. I think he's made a couple good moves, trading for Joe Burrow and Chase Brown. It paid dividends this previous week. But again, it's just not viable for him. It's not realistic to win 5 straight, which is what I think he's going to need to do. Even if he goes 7-7, it's really compacted this year in the league with 4-5 and 5-4 teams. So it's going to be really hard for a 7-7 team to make the playoffs. It's just the truth. Unless you sneak in at the very last spot. But even if that's the case, your points for is so low that I would not think it was possible. Even if you did somehow sneak in at 7-7. So Dom, you just have to pray. At number 9, we have Killer Offseason. He is sitting at 4-5 now. Very impressive, actually. Did not see this coming. I don't think a lot of people did. He, like AJ, has been a streaky team this year. He won his first 2, then he lost 5 in a row. Now he's won 2 more in a row. Does that win streak continue? I don't know. I hope not, because I play him this week. What does Judson need to do to make the playoffs? Well, he has a 23% chance to make it. I believe that if Jalen Waddle can just wake up a little bit, just get to 10 points per game, this team can make the playoffs. I really believe that. I think Devon Achane and Cooper Kupp, he needs to stay healthy too. That's a big point. But I think those 2 alone can carry this team. I think if you can have Jacoby Myers be a solid flex guy, that's great. I think if you can have J.K. Dobbins not get injured, that's good. But what you really need is you need Jalen Waddle to not be a bum. You traded CeeDee Lamb for him. You need Jalen Waddle to step up. And number 8, controversial maybe, but I have Bear down at number 8. Sitting at 5-4, granted at the top of his division, 70% chance to make the playoffs. The reason I have him this low is because he has lost so many people to injury this season. On top of that, he has a middle to low end points for. I don't really see the firepower of this team anymore, especially with injuries. In my opinion, what I would project, Colin Doyle is going to win this division. His team is, although injured as well, I think it has better players. The injuries to Chris Olave and Drake London, Jonathan Brooks, unknown. It's just going to be too much, and I don't think Brock can really sustain a winning record. Maybe he can get to 7-7 and sneak into that last 6 seed, whatever, but it's very unlikely that he wins this division, in my opinion. So I, spoiler alert, have the 08 Lions higher. I think they're going to win the division. But for Brock, what you need to do is you need to pray that Chris Olave is not out for season, and you need to pray that Ladd McConkey can fill in for you effectively. At number 7, I have Off to Grandma. Another controversial take here, because how is this team 4-5? No injuries besides AJ Brown. Middle of the pack in points for, middle in the pack of points allowed. So I don't really understand, what's really going on with Off to Grandma. A couple losses, that's bad luck for sure, but 5 straight, that's a problem for your team's roster. I think it's CJ Stroud. I think it's the tight end position. How do you fix that at this point in the season? I have no idea, because pretty much now everyone's got their tight ends, everyone's got their quarterbacks. It's going to be really hard to make a trade for those positions, like I said, at this point. So what you need to have happen for you is you need CJ Stroud to start playing like, I think, a 5th rounder is when you took him. I don't really remember, but you took him early. 7th rounder, around there. but you took him early. You need Zach Ertz or Dallas Goedert or somebody to step up for you at the tight end position. Just get you 10 points a week. I don't know if that's possible though, but that's what you need to have happen. On top of that, unfortunately, you're in the most competitive division this season with 3, 5, and 4 teams all looking up right now, and you are going way down. Do I think this team can make the playoffs? I think so. It's going to be really, really hard because as projected right now, there's 3 teams in the playoffs from this division. So there can be 3 people to make the playoffs in one division. It's possible. At number 6, who I have as my last playoff spot, but in reality, he'd be a top seed. It's the 08 Lions. I have him at number 6 because I'm concerned about Sam Laporta. I'm concerned about some of the injuries to the wide receivers. All in all, though, this team is going to move back up eventually. Everyone's going to get healthy again. But what is, this roller coaster of a season that the 08 Lions are on right now? You win a couple, you lose a couple, you win one, lose one, win one, lose 2 in a row now. It's been a roller coaster. What moves does Team Doyle need to make? Well, in my opinion, I think you package 2 of your wide receivers and you go find a stud. Unfortunately, that Garrett Wilson trade is kind of biting you in the ass. Not really, because Saquon is still great. I think you need to take the approach of trading depth for a somewhat superstar. I think you can get something for Mike Evans and Josh Downs, right? I think you can get an upgrade there. Maybe a Tyreek Hill. Maybe. Just my opinion. I still think you're going to make the playoffs, but if you really want to think about some things, that's what I would think about. At number 5, I have Team Didi coming back up the leaderboard here, coming back up the power rankings. He was all the way down. It was all the way up, then all the way down, then all the way back up. He hasn't been this high since the preseason power rankings, so congrats to you, Austin. And the truth is, you've made some pretty good trades. And your team is just playing really, really good right now. James Cook has been great for your running back room. Jalen Hurts obviously is great. But the thing about Team Didi is that he is getting healthier. He's on a win streak, I think a 5-game win streak, getting healthier with Nico Collins coming back and Isaiah Pacheco. So I think what you need to do, currently projected to make the playoffs at 51%, you're in the playoff bracket as of now. What you need to do, Austin, maybe just a thought, is you package Javonte Williams, you package maybe Isaiah Pacheco, honestly, if you want to, and you go get a really, really good wide receiver to pair with Nico Collins or running back, whatever you want. This is something that you can do now. You have the luxury to play with your depth pieces, and you go get a superstar. I mean, you still also have Jawan Jennings, too, who is going to be solid. He hasn't played in a few weeks, but he's going to be solid for you, right? You have Brock Bowers. Your tight end position is great. Your quarterback is great. Perfect. You don't need to worry about those 2 positions at all. So now you get to just go upgrade a running back or wide receiver. I think you trade Pacheco and you trade Javonte or whoever you want, really, and you go get a new running back. Just in case Chuba's production does decline here in a few weeks, especially come playoff time, I think you go get another running back to pair with James Cook. That's my opinion, but if you can get a wide receiver too, go for it. All in all, Team Didi, I'm really liking the team. At number 4, I have the Dogs, and good on them for sticking with it, not giving up when they were 2-4. 3 straight wins for the Dogs. Currently at an 82% chance to make the playoffs. And why are they at an 82% chance, you may ask? It's because they have the 3rd most points scored in the league. And I guarantee you that is mainly coming in this win streak. Okay, this team has been on fucking fire. Okay, in week 9, which was last week, he scored 138 points. In week 8, he scored 137 points. In week 7, he scored 120 points. Let's go back even further. Week 6, he scored 128 points. In week 5, he scored 112. He has not dropped below 120 since week 5. Making the trade for Justin Jefferson, I think, will be the best move for a team this year. Wide receiver room is fantastic. You're getting it done with Bijan and Najee. You just traded for Rico Dowdle too, so that's a great piece. I think this team is perfect. And on top of that, they're healthy. You get Jameson Williams back too. He wasn't injured. He was just suspended. Your team is healthy. The best ability is availability. Look at Brock. Both your teams are at 5-4, but you're sitting at 4th place. He's sitting in 8th place in my power rankings. And that's because of health. Something to hang your hat on, Ty. Way to stick with it. Again, though, it just sucks that you're in a really competitive division. 3, 5, and 4 teams, all projected to make the playoffs right now. If there's one thing I would say to make a move on, it would have been to trade a wide receiver for a running back, and you already did that. So now I think the only thing you do is just play defense. If you see an injury happen to a running back like Bijan or Najee or a wide receiver, then you go make a move then. But for now, you just ride this out and pray for health, right? You're hitting your stride in the middle of the season. Hopefully it's not too early for you. At number 3, I have the Guardians of your mom's house. A bad week last week. We're kind of going on a roller coaster myself. Sitting at an 89% chance to make the playoffs at 5-4, and second in the league in points for, only by 9 points, funny enough. There's been some great moves made by this team, and there's been a lot of bad moves. No one wants to talk about that, though, because everyone is biased and they don't know football. But here's the truth. In the trades that I have made, I've had the resulting 2 you fucked up awards, which is 2 losses because of the trades I make. Trading Chuba, the time I did, I lost a game. Trading Chase Brown when I did, I lost a game. Those 2 losses are crucial because now you look at the division and everyone's 5-4 or 4-5, and it's not even that far off. So this is really competitive. Now I have to play really, really smart. So now I just have to play defense, just like Ty. I have to hope for no injuries. CeeDee Lamb, Jamar, Kamara, they all have to be healthy. What I'm doing specifically, and maybe some other managers in the playoff contention can also take a look at this, I'm handcuffing my running backs. I'm going to make sure that I don't lose any running back play for the rest of the season. I'll take the chance on my wide receiver staying healthy, and my quarterback staying healthy, my tight end staying healthy, whatever. I'm taking that chance. I need my running backs to give production. I'm going to handcuff all 3 of them. As long as Jayden Daniels stays healthy, as long as Jamar and CeeDee don't get hurt, and Pickens as well, I'm confident that this team can make the playoffs. But like Ty, the only thing I can do is just play defense, play smart, strategic fantasy football on the waiver wire. Again, not going to go make any more trades. Honestly, I don't think I can do anything else with this team at this point. At number 2, I have Breeze's backpack. The second highest percent chance to make the playoffs right now at 91%. A 6-3 second best record in the league, yet you're not getting a first round bye because Mez is going to get that. So this is really unfortunate for Jay Gill. His best season he's had, I think, up until this point, and he's still not going to get a first round bye out of it unless Mez completely falls apart. However, Breeze's backpack, you're in a position where you have a 1-game lead over everyone else in your position. In your division, you have a 2-game lead over Judson, and like I said, Chris is out of it. So I think you're really pretty much slated to make the playoffs unless a major collapse. You can luck into 2 more wins out of the next 5 weeks, I think. But there's a common theme here. You are the 4th highest scoring team in the league, which is great. But for points allowed, you're also the 4th least allowed, which again is a concern. It's just like Mez. Your guys are not necessarily having to win the games. You just don't lose them, which is good. That's fine. I mean, Mez is a huge component of that, but he's also the highest scoring team in the league, so it's different. You, on the other hand, 4th in points allowed. For 4th least, if you want to put it like that. Maybe, again, just something to monitor. Do you go make a trade? I think you have to make a trade. Because you're going to lose Kareem Hunt's value pretty soon. You have tight ends. You have some wide receivers. I think you maybe... But what can you rank, right? You don't have a quarterback now. What can you do? I don't know. I wouldn't feel too content because, look, Zay Flowers and Garrett Wilson are not going to drop 30 points every single week. Garrett Wilson, maybe. But Zay Flowers, for sure not. He's on a heater right now. Come playoff time, I don't know what that's going to look like. You got to start planning for the playoffs. What does your team look like in week 15? In week 16? Maybe week 17? What's your team look like? What do those matchups look like? That's where your mindset has to go now. Maybe you swap Zay Flowers for someone just for that reason. Maybe you downgrade now and you just get someone who has a great playoff schedule. I have no idea. But you're in a position to have that flexibility if you want to. It's a great feeling. Great feeling. Regardless, great job on the season so far. I think trading Saquon was a great thing for your team. I would love to, at the end of the season, go back and see what games you would have won and lost if you kept Saquon. Same with other people that have made trades. I know I would have won 2 more if I kept my fucking players. Great job, J. Gill. And finally, I have Kent Chubb Check coming back in at number 1, sitting at 8-1. It'll be interesting to see how he ranks up with the all-time wins in the league after this season, because 8-1 is, we haven't had this happen since Ty. Maybe my season 2 years ago, but Ty was really the dominant season. Mez is on that path. Okay, most points in the league. He is all around, has a great team, everywhere from quarterback to tight end to flex too. It's all around perfect. He had injuries sustained to Joe Mixon. He's gonna have another injury, I'm sure, but he's been able to live with it, and that's the impressive part of Kent Chubb Check's season so far. However, the caveat and the only knock is that he is last in points allowed. Like, he has given up the least amount of points. Usually this is a concern because teams are getting lucky with wins, but in Mez's case, I will make the argument that he's not lucking into wins. He's performing really well with his points for, obviously. But it is something to monitor. How is this team going to play in the playoffs, right? 8-1 right now. We all know how the juggernaut teams have done this year. Will that happen to Mez? I don't know. I haven't looked at his rest of the season schedule. I haven't looked at his playoff matchups yet for his team specifically. But for me, the only thing that you can do, Mez, is just write it out and just, if something happens, look to attack then. You don't have anything to do, so don't do it, right? Don't pull a Chris, right? If a running back or wide receiver goes down, what do? Do you trade a 2-for-1 deal? Do you swap a wide receiver for a running back? Do you trade Lamar? Do you trade one of your tight ends? I don't know. So those are questions I would start asking myself now, because if it's too late, remember, once you lock in to the playoffs mathematically, you can't trade with teams eliminated mathematically. So that's the Lambert rule. So guys, that is it for the power rankings and kind of like a little, what should you do type of thing for each team. Kind of some analysis, kind of a breakdown. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I can't do it every week, obviously, but it's fun when I can kind of just go a little off script and do more just real talk about fantasy teams. I think it's fun. Hope you guys enjoyed the first take episode yesterday that released. Good luck to everyone this week in their matchups. Please tune in next week. Looking forward to that. Man, it's crunch time, guys. 5 more games left in the regular season. So make your trades now. Everything is hyper-focused. This is where you can make or miss the playoffs starting this week. Good luck to everyone this week, except Judson. I hope you lose. All right.